What you streaming?
Hey y'all.
Hey everybody.
Welcome to the What You Streamin' podcast. I'm Allie.
This is Katie.
And we are your hosts of this fantastic little podcast called What You Streamin'.
In this week's episode, we are discussing the 2021 horror sci-fi film, The Stairs. The Stairs follows a group of friends that are setting out on a week-long adventure through the woods. However, things quickly go sideways when they find a stretch of wilderness where a young boy went missing 20 years ago. They also find a mysterious set of stairs in the woods, and chaos ensues. The film is directed by Peter Tiemann, and it has 22 wins, 11 nominations, including Best First Time Director, Best Feature Film, Best Cinematography, Best Special Effects, and more. So it's done extremely well in the last year in the film festival circuit. And Katie and I are both very, very excited to introduce our guest for this week's episode, which is none other than the director of The Stairs, Mr. Peter Tiemann himself. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We are super, super excited to have you on the episode. Katie and I saw The Stairs as part of the Nevermore Film Festival, and it was one that Katie kind of had picked out from the beginning as one that she wanted to watch. And I'll let her, tell you a little bit about what it was about The Stairs that kind of caught her eye, I guess.
Yeah, so sometimes with me and Allie, we do not always gravitate toward the same film, which is always fun. You know, you never know what you're going to see. And that was one of the things I think I was like, man, I want to watch that one, because we had to pick. There were so many. Nevermore was great, but it had a huge amount of content, and you just couldn't watch it all unless that was all you did. And we could not, unfortunately, could not do that. So we had to pick. They were like, all right, which ones do we want? And The Stairs stood out to me because I have heard stories. Allie and I are former archaeologists, well, still archaeologists at heart, but, former archaeologists by trade. And, we'd be out in the woods all the time, just, away from everyone and everything. And you'd always hear like creepy stuff. You always had like, moments.
Right.
Super creepy.
Everybody does.
And so we, that kind of thing really like, we get into that when it's in story form. And I want to say that I have maybe seen or heard tales of, especially in like remote national parks and stuff, people going missing, and when they're out looking for it, it's like, oh, but I saw this staircase, and all this other kind of stuff, and just really creepy stories, which that may also have just come from Reddit. I do like to read things on Reddit every now and again, like the 2-sentence horror stories always get me.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things, like I saw it and I was like, you know what? We're watching that one. And, we were glad that we did. We really enjoyed ourselves when we watched it.
Thank
it was
you.
Great.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm not really a comedy fan, but I do love like campy horror films because it mixes the comedy in with the horror, which I'm a huge horror fan. So this one had that perfect mix of kind of comedy and creepiness mixed in together. And there were some, we both had a lot of moments where we laughed our asses off, and then moments where we were like, what the hell just happened? So
good. That's exactly what I want.
Yeah, we definitely
lots of shouting at the TV. No one goes into the witch hut. Stop it.
Exactly. There was a lot of screaming at the TV screen for sure.
We were involved.
Yeah. We were invested for sure. It was a really great film. I can definitely see why it's done so well in all the film festivals. Before we dive into discussing the film, Peter, can you please introduce yourself and just share a little bit about kind of how you got started in the film business?
Yeah, for sure. Hi, Peter Tiemann. A lot of people on set know me as Drago. So I got into film. It's kind of an interesting little story. I've always been a really active guy. Was in King County search and rescue. Been, a climber, hiker for years. Did high-rise window cleaning. Did a lot of physical stuff. So mutual friend, I didn't even know he was in film, went through film school here in, I think, Shoreline here in Washington State, and asked me if I could do a stunt for him. He needed this drunk guy to like fall down some stairs, and they were gonna like follow me down. And I was like, I don't know how to do stunts, but it sounds like something I could do. I could fall down some stairs. So I like went to the store, Big Five. I like picked up a bunch of like hockey gear and stuff, and like patted myself up and rolled down the stairs. And I guess the short film showed it a few places, and people really enjoyed it, asked who he got for to do the stunts. And then before I knew it, I did like another 2 or 3 short films over the course of the next 2 years. And then it got even more serious when I got features asking me like, hey, we don't have any stunt people here in Seattle. Would you like to do this? So I was like, okay, well, I don't have the training. I should probably look it up. Went online, try to find, see if there was any kind of training for stunts. And sure enough, there was. It's the International Stunt School, which was right here in Bellevue, Washington. Went through that in 2001. And then was asked to assist as a teacher for about 2 to 3 years after that. And then I got my first stunt coordinating gig in 2004.
Oh, wow.
So,
I'm going to throw out a nice pun here, but you literally fell into it.
I literally fell into it.
I couldn't help myself.
Terrible.
Man. I can't pass up a pun.
That's perfect, actually.
You're welcome. Oh my gosh, that's kind of cool. Like it just, I don't know. I always thought like having to, like being a stunt coordinator and being a stunt person was like, I don't know, what am I trying to say? Like took a long time, but it sounds like maybe you have like a natural inclination to kind of just like throwing yourself around and doing stunts and being able to work out like all the fine, minute details that go into that type of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just like you said, I fell into it, pun intended. And I just got really fortunate with the people that I teamed up with, some, huge mentors in the business that just kind of showed me the way. And, it just made it kind of streamless. And in Seattle and the Pacific Northwest in general, there was such a need for, stunt persons, because everybody usually goes to LA, or they go to the stunt shows or something like that. And I just wanted to stay local. And so I kind of filled that hole, basically.
Yeah, definitely would have thought I didn't realize there was such like a big stunt scene, I guess, in the Washington State area.
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily that there's a big stunt scene. There isn't, and that's kind of what I filled that hole for. But there is a huge narrative. Seattle's kind of known as a commercial town. They do a lot of commercials, but there's also those people that work on commercials every day. They're, that's their career, and they want to do something great, so they do their short films, and they, and some of those people get greenlit to do features, and then we get the rare instance where we get a major Hollywood series like Grey's Anatomy or something comes up, and then a bunch of us can pile on because we're already here. So it's come in handy being here, actually. So
yeah. So as you mentioned, you started off with doing stunts and then became a stunt coordinator, and The Stairs is your feature film debut in both writing and directing. And
correct.
As we mentioned before, it's done really well in like amongst the festivals in the last year, again with 22 wins and like 11 nominations. Like I feel like that's got to feel pretty great, right? Like first film.
Yeah, it does.
How was it kind of releasing your first film and doing the festival circuit? Like, again, not only it being your first one that you're putting out there, but also kind of like in COVID with like, maybe instead of doing in-person ones, it's all virtual festivals this year. So how was that kind of experience for you?
It was really interesting. We wrapped principal photography in like first part of October, end of September 2019, and went right straight into post-production. Our editor Michael Tang was here camped in the house in our spare bedroom for like 3 months cutting the film. And right when he was done with his first edit and he went back home to LA, it's kind of COVID hit. And so luckily we were in that post-production hole where everybody was staying home, quarantining, staying safe, and able to work on our film. And with technology now, it was like so easy, using like Frame.io, we would just upload whatever we needed to our Frame.io account, and then our composer would download it, and then vice versa, or our editor, or everybody was working remotely, and it was with technology and Zoom and all this other stuff that people are using. It turned out really good, and I think really it kind of kept us from kind of losing our minds a little bit, during COVID, because of all of the weirdness that was going on. So it helped us focus. And then finally things are starting to lift. And what we started, let me see, I think January was our first festival that was virtual. Actually, all of them were virtual because of COVID, until just recently your guys' that you went to, was it Nevermore?
Yeah, Nevermore was
one
a virtual one.
Oh, that's right. There was one that was over in Connecticut, I think, that wasn't, but we didn't get a chance to go to it because, a lot of the restrictions weren't lifting yet. It was too early. We just went to our first one. It was in Cleveland, and it's the Horror Hotel. So that was amazing. But, it was kind of interesting navigating the virtual film festival market. It was fun being able to show our film and reach more people than normally it would be able to reach to that people come in person, because they would kind of geocache it so that only like maybe 1 or 2 states around them could get to it, so that it wouldn't just like be hundreds of thousands of people coming in. So it definitely got a broader reach, which was great. And then when we got our first actually in person, me and Jason, my co-writer Jason Lowe, we went, and it was nerve-wracking just because it was the first time in person. We really wanted that opportunity to play it for people in the theater, and also be there in the theater to listen to when people laughed or when they awed or the shocks, and and it was amazing. It was so amazing, because there's a couple parts where we were like, people were laughing at, and we're like, oh, I guess that is a funny scene, because like as a filmmaker, you kind of go through it and you're not really thinking like, oh, this is the funny part. You specifically try to tailor the funny parts, along, and then all of a sudden you actually see it and the audience starts responding, and you're like, oh, hey, I guess that is kind of funny. I didn't see it that way, so it was really awesome.
Well, anytime somebody said "Grub Daddies," I was like,
yeah,
I just
exactly.
giggled.
Yeah.
I mean, my husband was like, "What are y'all doing in there?" We're like, "Grub Daddies."
The Grub Daddies.
It was great. We loved it.
The one character, I cannot remember his name, but he was definitely like the comedic
Doug.
relief. Doug.
Oh, Dirty Doug. Yeah.
My God, like chef's kiss, perfectly written to be that kind of turd of the group. Like, it was so good.
Yep.
It was perfect. That was my favorite character. The whole thing.
Yeah, that's our favorite character too. It's actually, he's a real guy. It's a real friend of ours that kind of, acts like that. And he's just like a sweetheart though. He's very endearing, and it's just like, so we right away when we were coming up with the concepts, I'm like, there needs to be a Dirty Duck. It's like we're writing him in, and he's that perfect character where you're just like, what the fuck? But you're also kind of like, oh, I love this character too, because I know that kind of a person. Like everybody knows that person out there somewhere,
Yeah.
So it's great.
Absolutely wonderful.
If you're like me and you're just getting started with podcasting, it can be scary and overwhelming. That's why Anchor is such a great choice. It's one of the easiest ways to make a podcast, and best of all, it's free. It also has great creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Another great feature of Anchor is that they'll distribute your podcast for you. Your listeners will be able to access your podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many others. You can also make money from your podcast using Anchor, and that's with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place, and it's easy to use. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today.
So, Peter, this was your first time directing a film. What has the journey been like for you? And did you find it difficult to make the transition from your previous position on set as stunt coordinator to, going to writer and director?
That's a good question. I loved it. I've always wanted to direct a film. I actually directed a film in the 4th grade with a school project. It was like a claymation, and it was like Saturday Night Live's Mr. Bill, but it was like an alien invasion that comes and squishes Mr. Bill, and I did all the voices for it and stuff. So I wish I would have kept tabs on it, because that's gonna be I'd love to be able to go back and watch that film, but I have no idea where it went. But I always knew that I wanted to try to create and I've always been writing ever since I was little. Like I've got a couple of like space opera sci-fis that I've been like, writing over the years and other like scripts and stuff. But I always thought, hey, I'm in the industry. Maybe I'll have that lucky chance of either writing something that somebody's going to want and develop or be able to direct it myself. And I was just fortunate enough to be able to direct it myself. So, and it was a really easy crossover, I feel, because, the last 20 years being a stunt coordinator on set, you're right there on set. You're not just a sideline crew person, you're always on set most of the time. You're interacting, you're with the DP and the directors and the writers to, you get a script and you read it, and it's up to the stunt coordinator and the stunt performers to be able to bring that action alive. And most of the time they don't write in like what the fight scenes are going to look like or car explosions. They just say, this happens. And then it's up to you as a stunt coordinator or fight choreographer to then create the fights and then put it on camera. So because of that, stunt coordinators are also usually like second unit directors. We tell the DPs and the camera ops where to put the cameras, which lenses to put on to make sure that the scene is being captured the right way. So I think that, the last 20 years I was very fortunate because it was an on-the-job training for me, like a film school. It was like training me to be a director. So, I'm just glad that I had that.
Most of the actors that you used in the film, were they local Washingtonians as well, or did you outsource?
We outsourced. We had a casting agent, Jeremy Gordon. And he knew a group of friends in real life that would fit the bill for our main cast. And so they all knew each other and signed on. We also did a casting notice, and we got several people hits like John Schneider, Kathleen Quinlan. And there was 4 or 5 local actors here that we used. So we had Russell Hutchinson from Z Nation did a cameo at the very end. He was the search and rescue captain. I was like, of course I had to have him because I love that guy. He's my favorite. And then we had Carlina Gore, who's also a stunt performer, and she was the ghost mom, or the crazy lady. And then we had exactly. And then we had David Hogan, local, who was our agitated man, who was basically her husband in the movie. And then we had some like little bit parts, like Elena was the sheriff, and Gordon, who plays like the park ranger at the end, was our gun wrangler, and he did a great job as an actor. So he's done some acting before. So yeah, we had a small bit of local actors, but the rest of them were like LA. One was from New York. John is from Louisiana, I believe, and then we had somebody from Tennessee, Texas area. So
nice.
Yeah, it was great.
Definitely helps, I bet, getting kind of like that friend group to sign on with like the chemistry and everything within the cast. So I bet that helped a little bit for sure. Also, one of our other favorite characters was the old guy at the end. Was he the sheriff?
Oh yeah. I think he was just like somebody helping with search and rescue, and then he found like the baggie of goodies, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't find anything."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Russell. That's who I was talking about. He's docked on Z Nation, and he did a little cameo for us. So it was fun because he kind of helped with writing those lines, and his character Gabriel Mason was a shout out to his grandson. He goes, "I'll do it if I can have the name be my grandson." I'm like, "Okay, cool, let's do it." Because I gotta have Russell
that's
in
cute.
it. And he was perfect. He's
Grant.
like, oh, I know. He played such an awesome character.
Yeah, we got a good laugh out of that one. Before we talk about the effects, which I really want to get into a little bit, I was wondering where you got your inspiration for the movie. Like, did you hear like a creepy story about staircases, or was it just kind of like a script that you picked up somewhere, or kind of what inspired you to make this as your first film? How
it came about is I love horror, and I wanted to do something different, like a story that was kind of unique, hasn't been told, or was told in a different way. So it made it unique. And, somebody would go, "Oh, I'm interested in it just on the story alone without ever seeing a trailer." And so I started like just digging deep in Google, like, obscure urban legends and everything else. And I accidentally stumbled upon this Reddit thread called Stairs in the Woods. And it's like this little subreddit where people like just post little pictures of like concrete stairs out in the middle of nowhere, and they're just like, hey, I found these, and they're kind of creepy. Anybody know anything about them? And then somebody else finds some other stairs, or or then if you start like digging even deeper, somebody's like, oh yeah, when I went close to the stairs, I heard like singing, or I heard like weird bells and stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's like, I like this idea, right? Of like, nobody's done that before. And so I called up my friend, Jason Lowe, or co-writer, and I was like, I got this idea, like, just hear me out. And so I kind of sold him on the idea. He's like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And we just got started writing after that. So it spawned from there. The story is all original and ours, but the catalyst is based off of the urban legend of everybody finding these like weird stairs out in the woods, and taking pictures. So we just thought it was a good idea.
That must be the Reddit thing you were talking about, Katie.
I'm telling you, there's all kinds of stuff on Reddit. You never know what you're gonna find. I did think it was cool because, like I said, I had read some of these stories, and Lord only knows where else I had kind of, I knew of stairs in the woods, but I was not expecting such a nice set of stairs, but also B, like where the stairs went and the explanation for that was not something that I was expecting. And so that was nice. That was a nice kind of like, ooh, this is different. And then the creatures themselves, you could have went many different ways, but I really appreciated just kind of how like visceral and real it seemed. It was out there, it was wild, but it wasn't so far-fetched that I couldn't be like, oh yeah, man, this could totally happen.
Right? Yeah.
This could totally happen. Oh man, but yeah, so it was good. We really enjoyed where it went and the details. A lot of those stories of the stairs are, you don't really know what's on the other side. That's really the creep factor. And so I appreciated that the creep factor continued into once you went through the door. Although I kind of wasn't expecting the door.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, that I was like, oh, they're gonna go up the stairs? Are they gonna fall off of them? What's gonna happen?
Yeah.
And then there was the door, but more stairs. You're like, okay, I'm following.
Yep, there's actually a door.
Yep, there's a door. So you mentioned a lot about Washington State and how you did all your training, that you're from that area, I believe is what you said. And so I saw that almost all the filming was done in Washington State. So how was that? Was that, were those locations that you had been to hiking around yourself or done some search and rescue in? Like, what made you choose those places?
Yes, it's actually a really long story. I'll get into this. So my writing partner found, like, we went to every park within 60 miles of us and just was like, taking pictures and like, oh, this will work and that'll work. And then start like looking at permits, seeing like the windows of when you can actually film there, if they have any restrictions of filming. And there was like a lot of parks that were like, you have to stay on the path because they were like in the city. We have like a lot of really gorgeous multi-acre city parks with, old growth redwood or cedars and pines in it. And they just look beautiful. But the problem is that they had a lot of restrictions. Like you had to be on the hiking path. And we're like, well, that's not going to work. So, okay, that park doesn't work. Let's go to the next one. So then it got to the point where we were starting to split up. Jason would go and look at parks, up north and over west, and I would go down south. And we were just trying to find like a place, one, that we can do the majority of everything in one and not have to like do a bunch of company moves. So Jason found this place called Lord Hill Park. It's like 1,800 acres, gorgeous park up north of here. And we got our permits. We were going to shoot our day scenes and all of our night scenes. And I think there was only two other locations that we had to find. And it was going to be perfect. About 4 days before we were camera up, we get a call from the county auditor. This is after we have our permits already signed and everything. And they say, hey, I don't know who authorized these night shoots, but we don't allow anybody there in the park after dusk. So we're going to have to pull your permits. And we're like, oh, you can't do that. We're like 3 days to being, shooting. And she was like, I'm sorry, like there's no infrastructure. We don't have security. And so we were like, well, if we can hire police officers or somebody else for security. And she goes, well, that would be good, but I have to deny it right now, and then you guys can do a reapplication. So we panicked, started looking around. There's a couple other films that we shot here locally on other projects I was on. And so I was thinking of Shoreline Park or Shoreview Park in Shoreline. And they got a film office there. So went there with my co-writer, started walking around, and we're like, you know what, we can make this work. Let's give them a call. My co-producer Amanda gave the film office a call, and they helped expedite our permit process, helped us just walked us through everything, knowing that we only had 3 days, and normally you need weeks to set all this up. They were just a lifesaver. And we got our first day shoot, and then night shoots, we did it all at my buddy Rory's house over in Carnation, which was about 40 minutes away, and he has like 20 acres. So we lost our perfect place, but through tenacity we gained a couple other places that worked really well. So it was a happy little accident, I think.
Yeah, it worked out. That does seem very stressful to have all of that go on
so
like that.
Stressful.
But I'm glad the other folks in the Shore View office were helpful. Yeah,
Shoreline Film Office.
The scenery was
amazing.
Great. Yeah, the locations were great. I mean, in the films we were like, oh, this is a nice little hike.
Yeah.
Although we did think it was way too long.
Too long of a hike
never
for
going
one
to hike
day.
that long.
Yeah, it feels like it's way out in the woods, huh?
I will say this is a very small thing, but it was also nice to see people in a movie going on a hike with like actual like hiking stuff. Like actual equipment that would be of use. We'd watched some other films where folks were hiking and staying overnight and didn't take anything with them except for cards. So it was nice that we were like, okay, these people look like they've gone hiking before. Right.
Well, we're big avid hikers. A lot of the stories that made it into the film were actually from us hiking. So, the comedy moments.
So as Katie had mentioned, the creatures were they looked real, and it's because they were. And you and I had a previous conversation kind of talking about the effects, and that it was practical effects, or it was all real, or mostly real, meaning there was like little to no CGI or green screen that was used when you guys were doing all of the creatures. But then also I'm assuming like the scene with the ghost mom and the agitated man, I'm assuming, I don't want to spoil it, but the thing that happens during that looked very real, and I imagine that was probably also practical rather than CGI. When you told me that, it kind of blew my mind, because I think we're so used to like everything being CGI now, especially with like superhero movies, and like kind of that genre is like very much CGI, and even in horror films now they're kind of moving more towards like CGI and not so much
CGI heavy. Really important for us to just do it practically. I've always loved practical effects, and I also like CGI effects as well if they're done well. But the problem is most low budgets, they can't afford $1 million budget to get great CGI. So knowing that, I was like, well, let's just make everything practical. We had an amazing company, Bandersnatch Studios, here locally in Seattle, that did all of our skins. They did the skin for our mechanical puppet. The mechanical puppet was built by Peter Spahn, who also built the stairs, and a couple of other props as well. And but Bandersnatch put the skin on the little grub baby. They also did a full suit for the grub daddy. And then we had, on-set makeup doing all of our effects and stuff. And then James Pendleton was our effects coordinator, who did the practical of the moment of the agitated man. So that was also not CGI. That was actually practical. There was some quality of life additions and takeaways that we did with CGI. We used Max Jordan was our VFX supervisor. And it was just really important to me to try to use what we had as practical meshed with CGI so it looked more natural. And so he wiped some green poles for the stairs that were like our supports, because, you have to have like certain supports and can't show those in the end. Otherwise it takes away what the cool look of the stairs looks like. And then, same thing with some, we added a little bit of slime, or say a blood gag didn't go off as well as we thought it would. So he would just add maybe, a couple little drips here and there. So he just added some quality of life to the film with our practical, and it just really worked well, I thought.
Yeah, everything looked slimy.
Yeah.
Especially the grub babies, the little glowworms.
Yeah.
They reminded me of glowworms from
So
childhood.
I have to know who is closer to your heart, grub babies or grub daddies?
I love the little grub baby. The grub baby is so
Oh my God, he's got a grub baby back there.
No. Oh my God.
Yes, I love it. For
So,
those
yeah, I don't
of
know.
you listening to the pod right now, Peter just reached behind to his bookshelf and grabbed his little grub baby and wiggled it at us.
Oh my God.
Beautiful.
Even seeing it like outside of the film, I'm like, absolutely not. Get that away.
No.
Gross. It's disgusting. Ew.
Great. That's
Oh my
exactly
gosh.
what we want to
Hilarious.
hear. We want to hear those two.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh yeah, we still have feelings. It brings up feelings.
Oh yeah. And occasionally you'll just hear someone shout, "Grub Daddy!" just in the house. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
What's happening? What's going on? So yeah. The stairs will forever be with us in the form of grub babies and grub daddies.
Yes, that's what I want to hear.
Oh my gosh.
So, Peter, you co-founded Wandering Dragon Productions, which is the
Yes.
company that produced The Stairs. What is the purpose or goal of Wandering Dragon Productions?
Well, I co-founded that with my producing partner, Amanda Jones. And the goal, or I guess our main goal, is to just do quality projects with practical stunts and effects, because that's been my specialty for the last 20 years. Just really try to make projects that have that quality to them, and that feels real with minimal CGI. And then our motto is inclusion. We want to make sure that we include everybody of all types of colors and background that work, and or as our crew or as our actors, and that they can just feel safe on our sets.
How long did it take you guys to shoot the film?
It was 19 shooting days, and we had 2 days off a week. So I think it was over a course of about a month,
Wow.
Maybe 4.5 weeks total.
That blows my mind. Like, I think that's, when I think of movie, people filming movies, I often think it takes like months or even years. But in speaking with a lot of like indie filmmakers and small production companies, like, y'all really get in there and you like hammer it out, and you're putting out like quality work too, like in a month or 2 weeks even. Like, that's really impressive. Like, that's insane to be able to do that. Like, yeah, that blows my mind.
Yeah, I wish I mean,
good on you.
19 days on an indie film is actually, pretty long time. And I wish we just had like a few more days, but it's like when you're working on budgets this small, every hour, every day of a location is pretty expensive. So it's like, how do we get in there, and how do we get everything that we need to have done in a timely manner so we don't go over, and that's on our ADs. Our ADs kept us on our schedule, and I mean, they're basically the coaches of the crew. They're like, get going, it's just like, keep this motor running. They're just like constantly like, you want to get that other shot that you're missing, like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, thank you. So they're like the lifeblood of keeping that film going, and making sure that we hit our target and that we're on schedule, and they did a great job.
Okay, double question. What was your favorite part of making the film? And then if you could change anything, or if you don't have anything to change, that's a response as well. But if you could change one thing about the process that you went through for this first film, what would it be?
Oh, good questions. What was my favorite part of the filming, you said?
Yes.
Was the first part? I would have to say there's so many favorite parts. I mean, the actors just interacting with them, and how they clicked with each other, and just bringing themselves alive on camera was amazing. I felt like every day was like my best day. But I think my favorite was the we filmed underneath the stairs in this old museum called the Georgetown Steam Plant. So it's an old working steam power plant that's been decommissioned, and now it's a museum. It's like well over 100 years. We got the fortune of being able to shoot in there. Not very many productions can get in there. It's, you know, because it's sensitive, and you have to really make sure not spill any blood or anything in there because it's museum quality. So I think that was like one of my favorites, just because everybody always asks like, oh my gosh, that was amazing CGI. And I'm like, that wasn't CGI. That was like, that whole scene was real. We were in this thing. It's the steam plant. We shot it, you know, in the dark at night. And it's got these like 80-foot ceilings, and it looks like it's CGI with, you know, the amazing way that Ryan Purcell, our DP, shot it. And, you know, it just shows that you can make things look this, you know, beautiful practically. If you, you just got the right crew and right camera and, you know, the right DP and everything going for you. So we just happen to have that. So I think the steam plant was like my favorite, you know. And then what was the second question? I forgot.
If you could change anything about like this first kind of filmmaking experience, would you? And what would it be?
Yes. The main thing that I would have changed is just having a little bit more time in pre-production. It would have been really nice to storyboard the film out, you know, and just have a clear picture of all the shots, but we just didn't have enough time because, you know, we were so low budget that, you know, even though I was writing, directing, and co-producing, we were also running around being locations managers and trying to find the places. So it's like, you know, when we were in pre-production, we couldn't just sit down and like get all these storyboards crafted so that, you know, everybody knew exactly what the shots were. But I had, you know, such a clear vision in my head of what the shots that I wanted were, that I felt confident enough to just go forward. So I guess the thing that I would change on this and going forward is just make sure I have enough pre-production to get like some storyboarding out, because it's not just me, you know, it's like, then, you know, it's also for everybody on set to know, oh, this is where the camera's going to be. So, you know, this is the shot. And if that's in my head and I'm not telling people that, then, you know, there's a lot of questions. Then we have like meetings, what's happening? What's the shot's going to happen? So, you know, going forward, I think that'll alleviate a lot of time and put more time and effort into shooting, as opposed to, you know, setting up.
Stressing out your ADs.
Probably
coming back constantly, like, what's next? What's next?
Yeah, totally.
Are you currently working on anything, or do you have any upcoming projects that you can share?
Yeah, me personally, just we're in the process of writing a couple of things for our next project for me to direct. But you know, in the meantime, there's always projects. And now that COVID's being lifted, I'm on several different stunt and effects gigs coming up. Nothing really I can talk about, but because of NDAs and stuff, but I know, but there's some really cool stuff coming up, and I'll be able to talk about it later. I can update you guys later.
We won't tell anyone, we swear.
No, we'll tell everybody. We can't keep a secret.
Swear.
We can't keep a secret. Oh man, well that's cool. Yeah, we'll keep track of you and see what you got going on social media and stuff. That'll be fun.
Yeah, for sure.
And can people stream The Stairs currently? Is that available anywhere yet?
It's not available yet. There's a press release coming out, I think next week or the following week, and it's going to be, there's a limited theater run. And then after that, it's going to, a couple weeks later, it's going to go to the premium VOD where you can rent and purchase it. And then we're at a couple of festivals coming up. And then I think we're wrapping up August 27th in Ireland for the Yellow Fever International Film Festival.
Oh, nice. So before we wrap up, though, we would love to know what you've been streaming lately. So what you've been watching, and if you have any recommendations.
Listening to.
Yeah, it includes movies, TV, music.
I just watched Gaspar Noé's Climax the other night. That was amazing. That is like just a psychological mindfuck horror. I really enjoyed that one. I just like Gaspar Noé stuff anyways. He's just like a crazy filmmaker. I've really been loving Lovecraft Country on HBO.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one. And then season 2 of Love and Robots, Love, Hate, and Robot. How do you say that again?
Yeah.
Something like that. Something
yes.
Love and Robots. Yeah.
Love, Hate, and Robots, I think.
Something like that. Yeah, I forgot how what the other third word is, but that's a really good series. I'll tell you my most anticipated film of this year. Well, it was supposed to come out last year, and I'm really wanting to watch it, is Antlers. And I think it comes out in a couple of months. So if you get a chance, look up that trailer. It looks freaky, and it's just right up my alley. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's called Antlers. Yeah.
Immediately, I have like I'm like, when I hear Antlers, I think of The Ritual, like huge, Norse antler thing. So I immediately think of The Ritual. I'll look into these. Great recommendations.
Oh, and your other show was Love, Death, and Robots.
Love, Death,
Thank you.
and Robots.
Love, Death, and Robots. That's right.
You're welcome. You are most welcome.
Thank you. One of us knows how to Google.
Right on.
I can use the Google.
She has the goobs.
All the power.
I got it. The Jujel.
Well, Peter, we can't thank you enough for joining us today and for being on the podcast. It's been absolutely amazing getting to hear more about The Stairs and kind of your filmmaking journey and kind of getting the inside scoop on how that has been. And thank you again so much for being on. Yeah,
thank you. It's a pleasure. This was great questions.
Yeah, thank you.
We're glad you didn't hate it.
No, not at all.
Oh, thank God.
All right, fun time.
And before we officially sign off, do you have anything else that you'd like to plug or share with our listeners, like social media or websites or anything?
Social media, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Stairs the Movie.
Stairs the Movie?
Yeah, Stairs the Movie.
I just want to say thank you again. And for everyone listening, be sure to follow this movie on Twitter and Instagram. You can also follow us on Instagram at the Fun with Friends podcast. And with that, get out there and get to streaming.
Put it in your ear hole.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Also, if you are enjoying the podcast, hop on over to Apple, iTunes, and leave us a review. Maybe smash that star button. Give us 5 stars only, No. Leave us a review, subscribe, comment, share with your friends, all of that fun social media stuff. We really appreciate it. And we hope that you are watching something good this week. Get out there and get to streaming, folks. Bye.